Well, we have come a long way. Now let's have a quick touch about what's next and also what is the difference between client SDK and server SDK so that you have some concepts. Let's go to the Excalidraw. So we are literally touching the last few topics. So there is a difference between server and client SDK, so you need to know about that. So actually it makes sense that we go to that thing, like the web server and client thing. So this was a client side of things, okay? So the client SDK runs here on the client side of things, as it can make sense. And then the server SDK runs on the server side of things. So it's therefore called server SDK. Why do we need to know about these two things? It's very important because quite often you will need to add let's say if you want to add a ChatGPT integration with this, okay? And ChatGPT provides you a so-called API key, and you will need to integrate your API key with this server that you're building. And then this server will need to be set with ChatGPT using the server SDK. Imagine if you're using it in a way that you're using the API key here. First thing first, this API key has to be stored in the .env variable, as I showed it previously. The deployment of this is a little bit different. I wish this course would also cover that how do you do the ChatGPT integration. But just to mention that this is an absolute no-go. So this thing is an absolute no-go. This is a big no-go, and never ever do this approach, because this approach will expose your API key to the front end, and then if it's exposed to the front end, it goes to the public, and anyone can use this API key of your ChatGPT, and then they can misuse it. So when you use it through the server SDK, it is saved, and then it's a go. It's a proper way to do that. That's very important. Like when you're communicating with ChatGPT, I mean Claude in this case, make sure that you mention these two terms. Like, I want to use server SDK for this particular operation. I want to use client SDK for this particular operation. Because then Cursor knows that, okay, I'm going to put this piece of code on the server side of it. Because it's a Next.js app, it is going to run on the server and as well on the client. So it makes sure that it doesn't run it on the client. So that's very important information. And therefore, I want to dedicate at least one separate discussion about this so that you understand what is the difference between server-side and client-side code execution when it comes to that particular piece of work when integrating Firebase. So in the next section, we'll basically put a domain name to this, and I'll show you how to do the DNS entries so that you can buy a domain name and literally put your app that you've built behind a domain name and send it to your friends so that they can check it. See you in a bit.